Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. This time, we're tackling effective school leadership. You know what really makes it tick? We're going to be digging into HPGD2203, Topic 2 Management and Leadership Function.
Oh, that's a juicy one. Leadership in education is a fascinating beast, right?
Totally. So much more than just, like, managing the day-to-day.
Right. It's about shaping young minds, creating a space for them to flourish. It's high stakes.
Totally. And this document jumps right into the nitty-gritty, the 4 pillars of management: planning, organizing, controlling, and leading.
The classics. Apply to just about any organization, really.
Exactly. But how do they play out in the unique world of a school? That's what I'm curious about.
Right, because it's easy to just list them off, but applying them in a school, that's where it gets interesting. Think of it like tending a garden.
I like that. You need your plan, what you're growing, how it's arranged. You got to control for pests, diseases.
Right, got to keep an eye on things.
Exactly. And then there's the whole art of leading, encouraging healthy growth, you see. Can't just plant them and hope for the best.
That's a great analogy, but I gotta admit, that controlling aspect always makes me think twice.
Oh, how so?
Well, when it comes to schools, shouldn't the focus be on, like, openness, a supportive vibe?
Of course, of course.
This document even mentions, like, teacher supervision, evaluation. That always feels a little...
I see where you're coming from. But controlling doesn't have to be about being, like, a dictator. It's more about, how to put it, ensuring quality, providing support structures, but the right ones. Like, imagine a gardener pruning, right?
Okay, yeah.
Seems kind of harsh, maybe, but it's to help the plant grow strong.
Right, gotta trim back the dead weight.
Exactly. Teacher evaluations, when done well, they're like that. Identifying strengths, addressing weaknesses.
And encouraging growth, not just, like, punishing.
Exactly. Fostering continuous development. It's about creating a culture of improvement, not punishment. And that's where this idea of instructional leadership comes in.
Oh, tell me more about that.
So the document highlights Duke's work back in '87.
Okay.
He was all about actions that make teaching high quality the priority. It's about making the learning environment, well, conducive. So teachers feel supported, encouraged to take risks, and have the resources to be amazing, like investing in those really good staff development programs, or making sure teachers can mentor each other, collaborate.
Yeah, bounce ideas off each other.
Right. Even just making sure they've got their fingers on the pulse of the latest educational research, the best practices. It's treating teachers like the pros they are. Empowering them to be their best.
So we're talking about making sure teachers have the support to truly lead, to shape those young minds. But, this document, it doesn't let teachers off easy. It paints a picture of them, and get this, as, like, multifaceted superheroes.
Superhero.
Yeah, for real. Okay, ready? Planners, facilitators, sharers of knowledge, skill builders, cheerleaders, value setters, guides, A&D role models. Whew, I'm exhausted just listing it all. That's a lot to live up to.
It does highlight the incredible demands of that role, doesn't it? It's not just about, standing at the front of the classroom and delivering a curriculum.
Right, it's so much more nuanced.
It really is. They're creating a whole learning environment, a dynamic one. Students need to feel seen, heard, empowered. And that takes serious skill. But to be fair to this document, it doesn't just throw those labels around and call it a day.
Oh, good. So it actually digs into what those roles mean practically.
It does, which is really helpful.
Okay, so let's break it down. Let's take, value setters, for instance. Now that feels like a big one.
It is big. And a bit of a minefield these days, wouldn't you say?
Totally. I mean, how do teachers navigate that, especially in today's world? Classrooms are so diverse. Values, perspectives, they're all over the map.
You've hit the nail on the head. That's where the art of teaching meets the messy reality of the world, right?
For sure.
It's about being able to facilitate these open dialogues, encourage critical thinking about different perspectives.
Right, because shutting down conversations, that's not the answer.
It's not at all. It's about modeling respect, empathy, even, and maybe especially, when opinions clash. It's got to be that safe space for exploration,
Totally, where students can bring their own values to the table, but also be open to understanding others.
Exactly.
Striking that balance, individuality and community.
Finding that sweet spot, yep.
And speaking of values, this document also talks about teachers really internalizing the national education philosophy, the NEP. What do you make of that?
Right, the NEP. Well, on the one hand, it gives you that framework, doesn't it, for the goals, the values of education. But
it shouldn't just be some document teachers memorize, right?
Hey, exactly. You got it. This document, it's pushing for educators to really engage with it, understand the why behind it, the principles, and then the real work, figure out how that translates into what they do in the classroom every day.
So it's like the difference between, I don't know, just going through the motions versus really believing in it, embodying it.
That's it. Think back to your own time in school, right? Was there a teacher who really made an impact on you?
Oh, absolutely. Had a few, actually.
And I bet they weren't just, teaching a subject. They were living it, those values, the passion for learning, that genuine care for their students,
Oh, yeah. Totally different vibe.
Those are the things that stick with you, right? That have a real impact.
Couldn't agree more. It's like they were more than just instructors. They were mentors, role models, almost like another family member in a way.
It's a special kind of relationship.
It is. But this document also reminds us that even with those amazing teachers, so much of a student's success depends on what's happening outside the classroom, too. It talks about that conducive atmosphere, even family influence comes up, like it's this whole ecosystem.
It really is an ecosystem. We can't ignore that. A student's home life, their community, the resources they have access to or don't have access to.
Yeah, all those pieces of the puzzle.
Exactly. They all feed into a student's well-being, their ability to learn effectively. In fact, the document brings up some interesting research, Howard Howell and Brainard, back in '87.
Okay. What did they find?
Well, their work highlighted how significant a school's location can be. Also, student background, socioeconomic factors.
Wow, yeah, it all makes a difference.
It's a huge difference. And, of course, the influence of family and peer groups can't be underestimated.
It really shows you how interconnected it all is. So when we're talking about a school leader creating that conducive atmosphere, it's not just what happens inside the school building.
Oh, not even close.
It's understanding the community, advocating for what they need, forming those strong partnerships with families.
You've got it. It requires a deep understanding of the challenges, but also the opportunities within that specific community. A leader who can bridge those gaps, make those connections, it's powerful stuff. It's creating a sense of shared responsibility.
Right.
That we're all in this together for the success of each student.
It really does take a village, doesn't it? But, something that always comes to mind when I think about schools, inevitably, is resources.
Ah, yes. The perennial challenge.
Right. I mean, you need funding, materials, technology.
The whole shebang.
Exactly. It's like this constant balancing act for school leaders, making sure everyone has what they need, students and staff. So how do they do it?
Resource management is a huge part of effective leadership in education. This document really drives that point home. Strategic planning is essential, and of course, careful budgeting. But it also emphasizes the importance of being a strong advocate.
Oh, interesting. Tell me more about that.
Well, a school leader needs to be able to make the case for their school's needs, you see, to the community, to those holding the purse strings. It's about being a responsible steward of the resources they do have, absolutely. But it's also about being willing to fight for what the school deserves, for what those students and teachers deserve to truly thrive.
So it's not just making do, it's being proactive, making that case, like you said.
Exactly. And it's not a one-and-done thing either. It's ongoing. This document highlights continuous evaluation. So looking at how students are performing, getting feedback from teachers, parents, even the students themselves. It's constantly taking stock, isn't it? What's working, what's not, and being willing to adapt to do better. The best leaders, they're not afraid to ask, how can we improve?
Constantly reflecting, refining. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about management, but this document, it also digs into leadership styles. And I gotta say, this is where it gets really interesting for me.
Oh, how so?
Well, it talks about this idea of transactional versus transformational leadership. And I don't know about you, but those sound like two very different approaches.
They are very different. At its core, transactional leadership is about clear expectations and the consequences, good or bad, that come with them.
So it's that if you do this, then that will happen kind of approach.
Exactly. Rewards and punishments. You meet the targets, you get the reward, you fall short, well, there are consequences. It can be a very straightforward approach, often found in more hierarchical structures.
Makes sense. Now, transformational leadership, that's a whole other ballgame. Yeah.
Really is. This is about inspiring change, igniting passion, empowering individuals to reach their full potential. It's less about command and control and more about creating a shared vision, building relationships, fostering growth, innovation. And to really illustrate this, the document points to some pretty compelling examples of charismatic leaders, figures like Sukarno, Mahatma Gandhi, John F. Kennedy, even Ayatollah Khomeini.
Wow, talk about a powerful lineup. These were leaders who inspired massive change, not just managed the day-to-day. And this document specifically calls out Prophet Muhammad as a leader whose influence is still felt deeply today.
A testament to the power of a truly transformational leader.
It makes you think about the kind of impact, the legacy a leader can have. So for those listening in, maybe you're an aspiring principal, a teacher stepping into a leadership role, or just someone passionate about the future of education. What would you say are the biggest takeaways when it comes to effective school leadership? What really makes it work?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? But this document gives us some really valuable insights. Problem-solving skills are essential, of course. Strong communication is key as well. You've got to be able to clearly articulate your vision, build consensus. Creating a strong sense of community within the school is also crucial. That environment where everyone feels valued, supported. Maybe most importantly, it's about walking the walk.
Leading by example.
Exactly. It's about embodying those values, those principles you want to see reflected in your school. And this document isn't alone in emphasizing these qualities. It reminds me of some research by John McBeath and his colleagues. Back in '98, they identified 6 essential qualities of good school leadership.
Okay, I'm all ears. Lay it on me.
All right. So they talked about moral purpose, understanding change, building capacity, working collaboratively, promoting professional growth, and advocating for social justice.
Wow, those are big. But they paint a really powerful picture, don't they? Of a leader who's not just competent, but compassionate. Someone who sees the bigger picture and who is really committed to creating a more just and equitable learning environment for every student.
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, it's about creating a school community that thrives, where every student feels supported, empowered to reach their full potential.
So it's not just about like test scores and graduation rates.
Right. It's about so much more.
It's about the impact you have on those individual lives and on the community as a whole. Well, there you have it, folks. We took a deep dive into the world of school leadership today. From those big picture ideas about what it means to truly lead to the nitty-gritty of making it all work. From the essential role of teachers to that it takes a village mentality. It's complex stuff. But I think the core message is that effective leadership, it's about service, empowering others, and ultimately creating a space where everyone feels valued and inspired to learn and grow. So whether you're an educator, a parent, or just someone who cares about the future of education, let this be food for thought. What kind of leadership do you want to see in the world, and how can you be a part of making it happen? That's all for today's deep dive. Until next time, keep those minds curious.